Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Kenda Bell, also known as Kenda Bell Spruill, also known as the Joy Factor Mama. And I know I had started this good flow a couple of weeks, but Sister has been doing some things and her life has been very busy. But I am committed to going live and just have conversations. And in saying that, I mean, I want to have meaningful conversations about news topics, trending news items, current events, and give it a more spiritual spin to it and add some feminine genius to it. Um, I'm about to get started tonight. We're not going to be on here long, but we are going to talk about Marilyn Mosby. I am from Baltimore. I live in Baltimore, and this is a case that is very important to me. Not only does it talk about just the justice system, but how not only they have certain rules for the melanated people, but they also have special rules for melanated women that may challenge um, the status quo, if you will. And I have um, an a woman that I hold in high regard. She is a full tenured professor of the graduate program and director of sociology and criminology at Morgan State. And I'm not going to keep her on long because I know the hour is late, but I haven't been really dibbling and dabbling in politics like I used to, so I didn't want to say say things that I wasn't fully aware of, and the news is just keep popping and changing with new updates. Secondly, we're going to talk about Shaunie Henderson, the ex-wife of Shaquille O'Neal, and she is remarried. And she made a statement where she said in her new book that she realized that she was not in love with Shaq. And before anyone thinks that she was throwing jabs or being mean, I think that she is speaking as a woman that has grown and matured. But before we get into that, I'm going to play my intro and we're going to get started with the latest updates with Marilyn Mosby and my special guest.
Yeah, I so that's it right there.
All right. I'm going to bring on Dr. Natasha Pratt Harris. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me, Kenda.
Yes, we're just having conversation. So now we are Baltimoreans. So um now I'm going to pull up the most recent story, and then if you don't mind, I'd like for you to to give your expertise about what this possibly means, because I don't I have I personally feel that a black woman had the audacity to challenge the status quo, and she's being punished for it in a minuscule way. This is my own opinion, but I'm going to share this news article that just came out like 2 hours ago. Because the last thing that I heard was they wanted to give her 40 years, which I thought was crazy. So, per Channel 2 News, WMAR here in Baltimore, Marilyn Mosby defense calls for no prison time. They're still pushing for this prison time. And it basically says that in new court documents, Marilyn Mosby's Mosby's team filed an objection, basically, in response to her this fraud case. And from what, and again, I know there's certain rules, but if that's her money, it seems like it's apples and oranges. They're playing around with it. So what the federal government, basically, they want her to serve 20 months, but her team is saying no prison time. She was found guilty on these counts of perjury and single count of mortgage fraud, but she is scheduled to be sentenced this month, where she could face up to 40 years behind bars for taking money out of her own savings account. So, good doctor, do you think that this is about them holding her accountable? Like that's this nice word that people like to say.
I think that our system of justice is what it is. Prosecutor's job, the number one job of a prosecutor, is to get a conviction. It's a win when they get a conviction. They got a conviction. There's a bonus round when you get a sentence. It sticks, and that person has to serve. This is the prosecutorial game.
Mm-hmm.
That sister knows what this is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in that article, what they're acknowledging is that the sentence can be as much as 40 years.
Right.
But prosecutors are feeling like, you know what, we can get 20 months out of this case. So we're going to go for the 20 months because 40 years we know is preposterous. But 20 months, oh, that's a significant difference between 20 months and 40 years. So we're trying to get some sticks. I was in a meeting earlier today talking to some folks who collect data on our office, our prosecutors' offices. And one of the things I talked about is how I came into kind of really delving into what happens with prosecutors. It was in September of 2007 with the genocide. And I'll never forget that the 6 young men in Jenna, Louisiana were being prosecuted
Yes.
for the incident of a fight, schoolhouse fight, after some 6 black young men were prosecuted, jailhouse fight, where there's a white student or a group of students who had a noose, and it was a racial moment, most definitely. And the quote that I will forever reference comes from Michael Bell's father. Michael Bell was one of the 6 who was charged as an adult. He was the first person charged in that particular case, and he was facing adult time for the schoolhouse fight. And he said that prosecutors, you know, oftentimes will go for a plea deal. This is a part of the process, a plea deal. If you don't have enough evidence. This is a direct quote that comes from him, and he was on NPR at the time. And the reason I'm referencing that moment is that they will do any and all things to get the conviction, one, and the sentence again is a bonus piece. And that game is a game that is played countless times. 90,
Mm-hmm.
just about 90% of all cases that go before the courts end in a plea deal. Just about 90%. Now, if you're gonna,
90.
just about
Mm-hmm.
90%, and some
Mm-hmm.
it fluctuates depending upon jurisdiction, depending upon which prosecutor's office you're in. Like we looked at one jurisdiction is about 75%, but that's a huge chunk of cases that don't even go to a trial. Many of us believe what we see on television. Oh, there's a trial and there's a
Mm-hmm.
jury and there's no. It's a rarity, and the only reasoning I'm mentioning that is that the 10% of cases where there's actually a trial, and this particular case is uh, a mega case for a prosecutor's office. It's a big deal because the world is watching.
Mm.
Saw Sister Marilyn Mosby talk about the fact that she is the only person in these United States that has been prosecuted for this particular offense based upon her withdrawing money from her own account during the COVID season. The only person in the United States. So if they're going to go the distance and go through a trial, you best to believe the prosecutor's job is to make sure, number one, a conviction, which already happened, and number two, that we're going to get a sentence so they won't look like fools when in
Mm-hmm.
fact nothing is handed down. Now, of course, the defense attorney's charge is to, vacate the conviction, and they're pushing for the campaign for Marilyn Mosby to get her a pardon so she doesn't have to face any jail time. The other piece that we are learning, and I saw this, you probably saw it too on the Breakfast Club,
Mm-hmm.
that because the powers that be want to disbar her, the way you're going to get to a point of her law license being revoked is if she actually is sentenced. They've already put in the paperwork to get her
Oh.
her license revoked. So now you got to get that sentence so we can get what we want, which is removing her from the bar. Now this started the goal to remove her from the bar started in 2016. Not long
Mm-hmm.
after the conviction. I mean, not long after she decided to charge the officers in the
Charged.
Freddie,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's been going on. Next year is 10 years since Freddie Gray
That's
was killed,
amazing.
and this look at where
Wow.
we are now. It is truly amazing. So I can talk about this forever. I know we have a short period of time, but it is clear this is how our system works. And if a person who is a lawyer, a person who was the top prosecutor in a city,
Come
is
on.
facing this type of sentence for the quote unquote crime that she's been accused of, any one of us is vulnerable to this possibility. But ultimately, any of us who stand and address a system that has played itself out in a particular way and gone against the grain regarding seeking prosecution for officers and the death of
Mm-hmm.
someone in their custody, you are going to be a target. We see it. It's clear. But again, for criminologists like myself, this isn't new because we paid attention, we've studied, we've looked. For me, for the past 30 years, we've looked at
Mm-hmm.
how our system of justice operates. We recognize that there's a disparate reality for people of color in general, and then there's a disparate reality for people who are the players of the system. When I say players, people who work as prosecutors themselves,
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement professionals,
Mm-hmm.
correctional staff of color. There's going to be a different experience for you, I'll say disparate experience for you compared to
Mm-hmm.
um, persons who are not of color, and that's exactly what it is. So here we are.
Yeah, yeah. So my whole thing is, this is something I think I heard someone say this. There are certain things that are lawful and there are certain things that are legal. And the way that the system is set up, they create legalities
Mm-hmm.
that they can play games with, like in this case.
Mhm.
So, is there anything that we as a collective can do? I know that there's I'm gonna sit down. There's there's a petition.
Mhm.
But is there anything else that we can do to make sure that she does not serve time? I know it's up to the jury, but is there anything that can be done?
Well, I'm sitting here on the Thursday before Mother's Day
Mm,
in my house dress, and I am basking in the possibilities of what's going to happen between now and Sunday as we celebrate mothers. And
mm,
I know I listened to this woman talk about her faith
yes,
and how she is a true believer. She knows that she is a child of God. She knows that she has been carried, by the Spirit during this season. And I would say that everybody, I don't care what your background is, educational level, your thoughts on even this sister in terms of, how this even happened in the first place. The one thing every single person can do is pray.
I love
Um,
it. Mm,
Prayer is
mm,
powerful. Prayer unites us, even when we can't hear each other's prayer. We can feel it. That it can be a shift in the energy and or the atmosphere, um, regarding just this person who, several days before Mother's Day of 2024 is facing the possibility of being detained for the offense that she has been accused of. So I would say number one is prayer. Number two, personally, I've noticed, um, you know, what is, uh, how do we describe it? The silence that is deafening. There is
this
deafening
silence.
regarding her case. I can imagine that some of us are uncomfortable, afraid of kind of shedding light on our perspective on what's going on. Whether
Mm,
you're for her or against her, you're not saying anything at this moment because it is a vulnerable time, because no one knows what's going to happen. Um, but in some cases, silence is complicit.
mm,
You're complicit. You're going along with what's in front of you when you are silent. So when it comes to that petition, it is okay to share that there is a petition. It is okay to share the link for the petition. That is not illegal. That is your right. Um,
mm-hmm,
you could very well be a person who has been impacted negatively by the system, and it could have
hmm,
happened when she was in office. She talks about the exonerations of, I think it was about 30 individuals while she was state's attorney who were wrongfully convicted, right? And
mm-hmm.
like any prosecutor's office, there will be some cases that people don't necessarily agree with in terms of
Of
how it's
course.
been handled. I think we all, however, are in agreement that incarceration for us,
Hmm.
when it's not, um it doesn't match the offense that she's accused of.
Not
it,
even
it,
a
it
little
you
bit.
know the sister should not be going to prison. The fact that we're having this conversation is blowing my mind. It
It's
absolutely
flagrantly
shows.
disrespectful, isn't it? It's like flagrantly, like, I dare you.
Yeah,
Like, oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, it is.
Continue, please.
It's really, it's blowing my mind. Like, I'm thinking back to 2015 here in Baltimore, what the energy was like, what people were dealing with in the US beyond Baltimore regarding the mishandling, the harm, the deaths of Black people in police custody. What we saw just 4 years ago, May 25th, 2020, with George
Mm,
Floyd. And to
yes.
think that a prosecutor who is addressing the realities of the harms of Black people, a Black man in Baltimore, where the world saw how we responded, that same prosecutor
Mm-hmm.
is facing punishment in this manner at this time. And again, next year will be 10 years since Freddie Gray. It is blowing my mind. It is absolutely blowing my mind. Now, I'm not surprised because I know our system is built
Mm-hmm.
on a racist structure. We know, like the book I wrote, Why the Police Should Be Trained by Black People. I wrote it with 30 plus
That's
contributors.
right. I have to. We got
Yes.
to come back and talk about that.
And
Yes.
ultimately, I know the system was built on, it's a racist structure. So like the establishment of police departments themselves, policing itself in the South was slave patrols, trying to make certain that those of us who were going to abscond from enslavement, that we will be taken back to the master. And the goal was to bring our
Mm-hmm.
bodies back alive and well so that we could continue to do, the work on the plantation, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how our system was built. And that has transcended the generations. The meaning behind that has transcended the generations. No matter what any of our agencies are telling us, we can and should reference how it began. And quite frankly, I'm not surprised that we are here. It's just a painful reminder that this is what it is.
Right. I just think about how there is no way that anyone that could have saw the footage
Mhm.
of Freddie, that they would even consider that the officers would not be held accountable, since that's like the magic word
Mhm.
these days, to be held accountable.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's always the Black woman that steps up, like, you know what, and I'm just really, it's sad to me that this is even a conversation,
Mhm.
because we know obviously that she's being punished for
Mhm.
standing on justice.
Mhm.
And with the federal government behind it is very telling as well. Am,
Mhm.
am I
Yeah. Yeah,
am I
because
right?
it's you know someone who was in the White House talks about the witch hunt. This is 100% a actual witch hunt. The person who talks about the witch hunt has been accused of and charged with and being prosecuted for, indicted
Mm,
for offenses that are documented, that these are against the law. You know,
right.
the what she was accused of is brand new. You know why? Because prior to when she became state's attorney, there was no COVID-19.
That's what I said. Legalese.
Yeah, there
Mhm.
was no opportunity to, you know, uh, get money from your own retirement account
What?
because of a global pandemic. There was
What?
none. So,
That
and
makes
the laws
absolutely
that
no
were on the book
sense.
under the that person who was in the White House, the laws that were in the books have been on the books forever. This is not new in terms of campaign financing laws, in terms of voter suppression, and trying to
Hmm.
impact the outcome of an election. That's a staple in our country. And so ultimately, you know, it's clear. It is absolutely clear what's happening. Um, I think there are a couple of things I will say. Number one, if we revisit and lean into what we know, reading the books or referencing the books that we are very aware of. For example, on April the I remember it like yesterday. On April, if I'm not mistaken, 20th,
Hmm.
2015. That should have been a Monday. On April 20th, 2015, the day after
Hmm.
Freddie Gray died, Michelle Alexander was at the Goucher College talking about her book. And I remember clearly her sharing, knowing we knew in this town that Freddie Gray had died, and she talks about our system of injustice, and she talks about the disparate treatment for people of color, and she tells us that, you know, if we are addressing the system in a intentional way, we would go the distance in terms of seeking the trial as opposed to accepting a plea deal and all these types of things, because that would kind of disrupt the system. It's a system and a cycle that's just pretty consistent and persistent. And when someone's breaking that cycle and doing something that goes beyond the norm in terms of an officer being prosecuted for the death of someone in custody, oh, it's like we're losing our entire minds. This is not supposed to happen. This is
But
not
it
the way.
happens every day nonetheless.
And
And
across the country.
yes,
Just today, there's a military man who was killed.
I saw that an airman, they went to the,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, we went to the wrong apartment. What?
Right. Breonna Taylor. It reminds me of Breonna Taylor. You know, she hurts her life being taken while she's sleeping, you know, and they were in the wrong space. This is where we are, though. We as a society, and I think this is what's happening. And you asked, like, what can people do? As a society, what we do is we connect ourselves with what's popular, what the popular commentary is. So the popular commentary may have driven people's idea about Sister Mosby, right? In terms of like how this happened and how we got to this place, right? But we're forgetting the core of the matter. There is a man who is deceased. He is not living. He is no longer with us. His life was taken. And one of the things I've said is he did not take his own life. His life was taken. And the story is now, let's focus on the person who prosecuted the officers.
Makes no never mind to me.
It's like you're forgetting the beginning of this piece. Don't forget where this whole thing started. We have a tendency to do that, but there are a couple of things I'll say. One, as I said, prayer. Two, when the sister rises, it's going to blow people's minds. I believe she's on a rise. You have to truly get to this place of like breaking.
It's the breaking. It's the alabaster jar.
Exactly.
She's at the alabaster jar moment.
Really
I remember.
And when she rises, the deafening silence will be no more. Watch people come out the woodwork and start really shouting about, number one, their support. And of course, she has her supporters right now, but there are people who are quiet, and it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. I would say pray for her children.
Definitely, yes. That's what
I talk about is the children of persons who are incarcerated. This ain't cute. You know, to kind of address things politically, you know, and using this woman's attempt to do right in terms of our system of justice. Those babies need their mother. All of us do, and some of us who don't have our moms, we still need our moms. You know what I mean? Some of us who have our moms who are behind bars, they need their mom. So pray for their whole family, and just recognize that it doesn't have to be this way, but this is where we are. This is the way our system operates. Also share that petition. If you don't feel comfortable sharing it publicly, share it.
I don't see why. Who would be afraid to share this petition? I mean, I get it.
I'm a social scientist. I'm a observer. It's like I'm collecting data, and even if it's in my head, and I'm looking at, and I'm reading about, and I'm seeing, I'm like, people are not speaking up, and there's some fear that people actually have in terms of, if you say something, someone may look at you a certain way, or they may deny you an opportunity, or there's something going on, because it is deafening silence. The other piece is that Black women generally aren't necessarily as supported as our brothers, right? So depending upon, you know, who it is, there's a move made regarding that piece. There's also a group of folks who rightfully in their from their own vantage point, because of their own traumas, because of their own reality, they're
Yes.
support her. But believe me, mark my words, when she rises, people will come out the woodwork and acknowledge this queen. She stood her ground and she pushed for what was right. And when you're doing the right thing, that's when those people, the powers that be, quote unquote, push against you.
Mm-hmm.
But still do the right thing. Do not live a life where you can't lay your head down at night and feel like you're lying to yourself, or you're lying
Mm.
to people, or you're going against your own morals and your own values. Still do the right thing. And that's what she's talking about, herself. And again, I'm not saying the sister is perfect. None of us
Oh,
are, right?
listen.
Even in the prosecutor's office, the folks are not perfect.
But
But
when we go
all,
to vote, when we go to
Mhm.
vote for people, when we go to get services, to buy food, to
Mhm.
shop, we're basically going to these places for someone's service, for
Mhm.
how they show up. And the idea of whatever the personality things are, whatever, how I personally feel that a black woman that's too
Mhm.
mouthy, too sassy,
Oh
or
yeah, we
whatever,
got a problem,
you
honey. We should
know,
keep our mouth shut.
but if she was standing for justice, how
Mm,
could you not at the very least share the petition? I
yeah.
mean, because I just found out about it,
Mhm.
because I was noticing, and I haven't really been doing my events and stuff regularly, but I
Right.
said, what better time than now to get my butt back
Mhm.
in gear, because this is important. I don't care 20 months or 40 years,
Mhm.
charged with having the audacity to say hell no, for
Mhm.
colored girls who said hell no.
Yeah, but one other thing I was thinking about earlier today, I was thinking about the reality that we all have been fed, which is you can't do what they do. Right?
Mm,
You can't
mm-hmm.
do what they do and expect the outcome to be in your favor. But the what we should be saying is, why can't we do what they do? The fact that we can't do what they do is the problem. It's not that we're doing what they do. It's
There
the
you
fact
go.
we are told and we know we can't do. That's the problem. We forget the core of the matter often. So be bold and intentional and forthright and transparent in what it is that you are doing. If you know you haven't harmed somebody, if you know you haven't harmed your family, if you know you're not even harming yourself, you're not harming your community, keep doing what you're doing and recognize that the system is unfair. But the fact that it's unfair is the problem, not that you're living your truth and doing what you choose to do in terms of your own wealth or your own finances or whatever it is, whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's such a fascinating moment. I can go on and on and on
Yes.
about it, but we're gonna definitely pray for that
Yeah.
sister. Share that petition. I'll be logging into your live on your Facebook page, so I'm going to make certain that the link is
Okay.
on that page for people to share the petition. You don't have to know her. Oh, in 2016, 100 of us women in Baltimore, it was more than 100, signed a petition that we wrote in the Afro newspaper, asking folks to recognize that there was a law professor, I think he was out of George Washington University, if I'm not mistaken, who
Mm-hmm.
asking for her to be disbarred, and we spoke out against that at the time. So that was a petition that we wrote, just supporting her in the Afro.
Mm-hmm.
But that type of thing should continue. Again, maybe the deafening silence is that people don't know, but share the petition and just make some noise, because she's tomorrow. Well, today is exactly 2 weeks that she's
Mm-hmm.
faced with the sentence,
With
and
not knowing
hope
her
that
fate.
she doesn't serve a single day in jail, and that conviction can be vacated, and she can continue to kind of be the voice for the voiceless, because she was willing to speak up and do the right thing under those circumstances. Now what's happened, and again, there's a whole lot to be said regarding the people who were charged in the Freddie Gray case, whether or not they all should have been
Yes,
charged.
one of them is like a trainer, right, for police officers or something. I saw. I can't remember right now, but I've started.
More than a trainer, that person is the lead of internal affairs.
I started checking into it over the past few days, and I was like, wait a minute, no one's really talking about this, you know. And I wish I had a bigger following so we could really discuss this. But I guess we got to keep talking, right?
Right. So
It was Sean. Go ahead.
One thing I think in that particular scenario, I think this person's rise to lead internal affairs may speak to the debate about who should have been prosecuted in the Freddie Gray case and charges that, and that is a thing. But ultimately, if we just pay attention to all the people who were charged, what was presented in terms of the death of this brother, we can make our own conclusions about what happened. But ultimately, he died in police custody, and he didn't kill himself. And that's
the and he was mishandled. We saw the video with his limp body. There's no way that the rough ride, which I didn't know about until this, would do that much damage. And she had the audacity to hold these people that are supposed to be peace officers. That was their original title, peace officers, brutally handled this man that was not a threat when he was picked up. And she had the audacity to charge them. And that's what she's being punished for under the guise of getting money out of her own account. LaShawn, thank you for joining us. Did you have a chance to catch up on what we're talking about before I let the good doctor go?
She's on mute.
We can't hear. You're on mute.
Hello, everyone. I did my research, but I'm learning. I'm listening to you all since you all are actually there and know what's really happening behind the scenes. So I'm here learning and ready to share the petition as well. So
excellent. Yeah. And again, I talked a lot about prayer, and I'm really I'm being honest from our heart of hearts. We just need some prayer. I would even definitely pray for the family of Freddie Gray, because this has to bring up the trauma of losing him, because we know the connection. Her experiences, her conviction and the possible sentence has, the connection it has to that particular case. Pray for the police department, because outstanding members of the department who were there prior to Freddie Gray, who continue to do the work in the city in a positive way. And sometimes there's backlash that they experience because of people who do unfortunately harm us. Pray for the prosecutor's office that is actually in place now. But again, pray for the Mosby family and those girls, and pray that what we know to be true in terms of the spirit and the power of prayer can manifest in such a way that their family is protected and the right thing happens regarding the sentence that's pending.
Our ancestors want justice for our justice fighters.
Exactly.
That's a justice fighter. So call upon the ancestors. Pray, 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 pray.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, good doctor. I know you are ready to go. I appreciate you, but we got to do an official schedule so we can talk about that book, because the way that the police handles one segment of people versus the other is very diverse, and they need training.
Exactly. Yep.
Thank you.
Good night, queens. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good one.
All right. Girl, I'm not going to be on here long, but yes, being a woman and speaking your truth can get you in trouble.
Yeah, because they're not used to it. I've been reading about the Sibyls. Girl.
The Daughters Council.
They don't know about the warrior and that fire and that power that we have. And that's really what we're here to do, is to stretch you, to stretch your emotions and your spirituality and all of that inside stuff that this patriarchal system, under the disguise of racism and all the other isms, suppresses. But we are here to give birth to that. And Honorary Mosby is here to spearhead that from my research. Well, she already was spearheading it. And so hopefully, like you said, the ancestors are with her, and we're one of a million. We're gonna keep going.
Most definitely, most definitely. Like I shared, for anyone that wants to learn more about this case with Marilyn Mosby, she was the state's attorney for Baltimore City. Mm-hmm. And she had the audacity to bring up charges on officers that mishandled Freddie Gray, who was in their custody, which resulted in him no longer being here. She had the audacity to bring them to court so they could have their day to be held accountable. Mm-hmm. And now the federal government, it's not just the city or the state courts, but the federal courts want to prosecute her. The mm-hmm. maximum is 40 years, but they want to get at least 20 months for her taking money out of her own savings account. They want to charge her for taking her own money out of her own retirement account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read
that. That's what they're saying.
The sentencing is May 23rd, right?
Yes, May 23rd.
Yeah, I read that.
That's what they're saying that the reason is. But we know what the real reason is. So anyone that is following me, please go to my page, get the petition, click on it, sign it, and if you can, share it. If you're concerned about sharing it for whatever the reasoning is, if you know someone that would like to support keeping this Black woman that stood on business, everybody's talking about standing on business. She stood on business mm-hmm. for a Black man. A Black woman stood on business for a Black man. Oh my God. So as we try to throw all this gasoline on these gender wars or whatever, this is a time to put those swords and those hammers down and come together, because this Black woman stood in the gap for justice for a Black man that was slain and he was mishandled. Mm-hmm. That's at the very least, no matter whatever you may think of the personality. Let's support her, because her children do not need to not have their mother. Thank you. Not have their mother because she took money out of her own retirement fund. The ridiculousness of it. We mm-hmm. should not be standing for it quietly in 2024. We just should not. Okay. Oh, you got our picture up. Oh my goodness. So yes, guys, make sure that you can follow it right there. So I'm not going to be on here long because I am super tired. But how was your week first? How was your week?
My week has been very interesting, girl. Just looking at the state of our community emotionally has been not draining, but eye-opening, that we got some work to do. I got some work to do, but I, as in we, have work to do because we are suffering on all accounts, and emotionally within family. And so that's like what my week has been, and having me to be grateful for the things that you and I have experienced through learning about self, because that's where all this comes to. Because it seems kind of superficial to go from Maryland to Shawnee or some of the other things, but they still come back to being human and knowing our human selves and all the aspects of ourselves, from mother and daughter to relationships. It's like a lot of the men I noticed with Shaunie were like, she should have kept that to herself. Or
why? Y'all be telling us.
Right. Or that, like, how could she have those many kids with someone that she doesn't love? The same way that you bust one and someone you know you don't want. Can we go there? Can we really go there?
Yeah. I mean, it's later than I be on. It's 10 o'clock. Go ahead, go for it.
No, but okay. So I can say be one or release. How about we say release?
I like that. Okay. I like that.
So you can release, knowing the biology of when you release, and said release meets said egg. We know what happens, and we know you don't want to be with that woman. How is that any different than what Shaunie is saying? At least she's able to reflect and question herself. And that's what I'm saying about us as women and our power and our that right brain that's missing in our society. She's reflecting on her past and questioning, like, did I really know what love was? At least in my eyes. That's what she's doing.
I didn't see it as her coming for him or being mean or hurtful to him. I think that's how I took it. But because I know what I thought love was when I was 24, 25 is totally different than what I think at 53. That girl. So I didn't see. I think that she thought that was the right thing to do. He's rich. He's famous. Why not? I'm gonna make this work.
Right.
And now she sees that there are certain things that she may have needed that she didn't even know that she needed, or if she did, she didn't know how to share it. 25-year-old Kenda versus 53-year-old Kenda are two different people.
Girl, totally. And that's how it's supposed to be. I just did a reel that was basically like, if you're still thinking and looking at things the same way and still have the same routine, you're not growing. You're not changing. And that's what life is about, growing and changing. So for her to say, which is my take was on from her being on the Tamara Hall show, was like, I just realized that I wasn't securing anything for my children. Maybe she thought she was securing it through Shaq. And then she realized, like, this, I don't know why I feel like cursing, girl. Maybe it's Mars, but this ish is not security. This is his. I'm sharing it. I have gave birth to his children, but I don't, this not mine. It's not with my name or ours. If we want to say ours, there was no merge from what she was saying. And she wanted to leave a legacy for her children. And it started with being okay to me to look back and say some things like, was I really in love? Did I really love? Shit, who don't? Be like, what would I be if I didn't know you? Where would I be if I didn't know you?
Get out my head. I'm going to sing the song. But here's the thing. Again, at the time, she may have thought she was in love.
I know I did.
Yeah, who didn't? Every time I thought I was in love. Until I wasn't.
Thought I was in love and gonna marry every
well,
I didn't have no values.
I didn't think I was gonna marry all of them. I said I can't say that lie. I didn't think I was gonna marry all of them.
That's what I'm saying. We cope. you learn to cope and what you think. It's a journey of discovery, and I believe that's all she did, was saying that I'm reflecting and discovering myself. And I think that really did a big deal with me. I think it scared men too, to think that you really don't know what's in a woman's mind. You assume.
Yeah, because again, I don't know how old Shaunie is, but I suspect if she's not 50, she's really close to it. So
I think
she's
it was like
probably
40 something.
yeah, so she's probably really looking and being like, wow, I didn't know Silly Squat. And the
Mm-hmm.
idea of who you are besides being a mother and a wife. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
women are not allowed the option to think of themselves beyond those two roles for the first half or quarter of their life. Like you got to be either somebody's wife, somebody's girlfriend, or somebody's mother. And again, it's not to say that anything is wrong with that. I enjoyed being a mother. Do I wish I would have done it married and I had the option, but I would probably be saying the same thing that she said right now. I don't think you understand what I'm saying? If I
Mm-hmm.
would have taken that path, so I understand it's not necessarily about the man. We can
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, well, he was cheating on her and he was this and he was that. Well, she was hiding money from her. They were in survivor mode.
Mm-hmm.
They were in survival mode for the best thing that they each knew to feel love because they didn't know what love was. He probably said the same thing. I
He
thought
did.
love. Yeah,
He
okay.
did.
I
And
thought
some
he
were
did.
saying, "Oh, he just took a higher road." But I just think he's at the point too where he even talked about what type of man he was at the time, and that yeah, he was like, I wouldn't have loved me neither, you know?
NBA player, pro. Come on, LA.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah,
Y'all
and
are
being
tripping.
able to say it. But you said something that struck a chord with me in regards to we about not being allowed. And it for me it's more so just not having the knowledge and thinking that what's being presented to you
Mm,
is it, because like what we learned from Progressive Love Academy and being in the Blue Butterfly Sanctuary is that there's more aspects to us as a woman. We're not
mm,
just here as a mother, even though that is the greatest deed, but we're not just here for birth. We're not just here to be a wife. And if you can understand that those things are great, but at the center of it is your womanhood. And so
yes.
that is, I think that's why I say we have work to do to get that message out that you do have those other aspects of yourself. And when you consider your womanhood, then there's this balance where you can say like, oh, do I want to am I operating in my values? Does this man or whomever you're with, do we merge together in regards to what our values are? Then do we want to create and bring forth life? And
Yes.
and then you have these
Yeah.
other aspects, your vocational ideas and how y'all can do
Yeah.
it together. But when you, like you said, you coming from survival mode and you're just watching who was before you and the aunties and grandmama and mama,
Yeah.
then you're going to just keep on unless you something in you has to take you to seek to learn, and that's
To
trusting your
break
intuition.
yeah, to break that pattern,
Intuition.
to break
Yeah.
that pattern, because of course you're gonna think, you got your aunties. Well, girl, I mean, I know he be cheating, but girl, he is paying them bills, ain't he? You
Yeah.
better, you ain't gonna get no better than that. You better sack that money away.
Yeah. Because it's about security.
We have to be honest about that.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing is wrong with that if that's what they agree upon. And at that time, she may have felt that her love language was security.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he may have felt his love language was accessibility. you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Which is
I want,
security for
you
him
know,
too. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like I get it, and I just think that people always are looking for things to argue about or to find the quote unquote the shade in. And I was like, are these people older? Have they at least hit 45?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, I am technically a newly married. I haven't been married for as long as some people my age. But I do know the reasons why I married later were the reasons why Shaunie was saying what she said in her book, because she didn't realize what she really wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that um if people are more comfortable to have these conversations earlier,
Mm-hmm.
if 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 men are allowed to also know that they're more than a paycheck and a piece of
Yeah.
equipment, and women know that they're more than um, a birthing station or accessory, that they would have more, they would feel more like in balance,
Mm-hmm.
because there's different types of mothers. There, everyone that's a mother may be a visionary mother, someone that's creative and fun or very relaxed. It's the boxes, and
Mm-hmm.
they got married what in the early 2000s or 90s or whatever. So they probably went through a lot, because
Yeah.
that was when they just started giving those big contracts and stuff to those players. So
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine the growth opportunities that
Mm-hmm.
they both experienced. Yeah.
Yeah. And even think about those who are not in that tax bracket that are doing the same
Yes.
thing.
Yes. Doing the best that you can.
Mm-hmm. And
Period.
still having babies, knowing
Yes.
that you don't know if you really want to be with this person. You don't know, but you think that baby may save it, or you're in
Yeah.
denial.
Mhm.
Um. So yeah.
Or that's the right thing to do, because that's what you're told. That's,
Mm-hmm.
you get you a good man, and the good man standard, it varies from person to person, from family to family, from every economic level, but I just didn't understand why people were so bothered by it. But that's because everyone wants to look at it at something as the negative. But you live a
Mm-hmm.
little, you would definitely get it. And I'm not going to stay on here long because I'm super tired. I appreciate you hanging out, because I'm feeling you. I'm supporting you, girl, but I'm tired, so I ain't
I
gonna keep.
understand. I am too. So we can.
Yeah, no, but I like appreciate. So one more thing, then I'm gonna ask you. So, do you have any thoughts about Kendrick and K Dot? Dun 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 dun
I
dun.
haven't
They
listened
not
to.
like us.
I haven't listened to anything. I mean, I have an opinion, but I haven't listened. And I did listen to KRS-One, and I'd start to send you the clip because
Okay.
he summed it up for me in the idea that people say that hip hop was this is what hip hop was started with, or is the central focus of hip hop, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It was not to this nature that we are seeing it or experiencing it with Drake and uh, Kendrick. It's not the same thing. This can, like someone said, turn into, we don't know what may happen in regards to these words, and then on the other side, we don't know how serious it is. You just don't know, and they just take up
Age of
our
Aquarius
energy.
is upon us. You're right.
Yeah, they just take our energy, and we spend all our time into this. But KRS-One was like, what we're seeing was the sellout of hip hop, not just them, just from its original beginning. It was
Mm.
about, like he said, the culture of creativity, creating, creating the dance culture, the breaking, the breaking on the beats. And you may have said like, I'm better than you, you know, as far as my skills, but it didn't get personal. It didn't get personal. So I feel like it's undercover emotional venting about
Yes.
yourself. I think it's revealing more about yourself.
Right. That's right. Because like I said, so what I like is that the men, like you said, they're venting, uncontained. But then again, no, I don't know. Maybe they are. Because some of them, they kind of was like, you know, I'm gonna say this and this is what it is. But the thing about it is that they were throwing a lot of allegations that I thought, and I get very uncomfortable when you start throwing them serious, them heavyweight charges against somebody, because that's very dangerous. And now they're trying to say that that Drake is depressed, you know, and he did a post which I thought was interesting, but I didn't see it in the same way that everyone else saw it. So we know that basically most of the world is saying that Kendrick won. You know, they got TikTok videos, they got a dance now. It's like all over the place. If I was Drake, I would be like, it's everywhere. But there's children involved that can grow up and see this stuff. You know,
and hopefully their fathers or family. I just think it's something that we could learn from. And I know I'm always on that. I have a problem with paying attention to pop culture. But from you, and I told you from you, I've like, I can do movies and music, but pop culture, I'm like, I don't have time to get, I focus on me. But I have learned, like I said, from being around you that to look into those things, because it really says a lot about the state of our community as a whole. And so that's how I look at it. And I hope it brings about a change. What really alarmed me, though, was that my generation was so much in support of a diss. I want a diss. They was mad when J. Cole was, oh, he a simp. He this, he that.
I know, right?
And I'm like, are we 50 and 56, almost 60, 45? What the hell? This is what we want, to still have grown men emotionally sparring with each other? Because to me, that's what a diss is. It's an undercover, and men be the first one to say, oh, that emotional stuff, that's women. No, it ain't just women. It's you too, because you a human. You a human with emotions. And no one helps you cultivate them. So therefore, we allow these diss because that's the way y'all deal. Y'all vent. That's the way you vent. But those vents have turned into deaths. And that's what surprised me, that people were all for it. And then getting upset when people are like, this is kind of scary. But then towards the end, those same people are like, oh shit, this is, now they're slinging mud. Well, what do you think is going to happen when you start a fire and you keep adding fuel to people who are emotionally unstable but only have dollars?
So I watch battle rap with Simbi, and for anyone that's watching, that is my husband. He watches those battle rap leagues. They go hard. They talk about angles, your mama, who robbed you, where you living at, how your boys ain't nothing. I mean, they go deep. They go deep to the white meat deep. And I think that the culture is excited because this is like the gladiators. They're acting like gladiators now. You know, so, and I got into it until they really started getting real dirty. And I was like, this is too much. That y'all bringing up kids and stuff now, like multiple times, and but do you think that they could ever come back from this?
Only by looking at themselves. Only by, because when you say gladiators fall to the death.
That's how they acted. But let me tell you what's so funny. One of the response that Drake, the last record that Drake did, I forgot what the name of it was. He quoted some things, and I said all the things that he's talking about with Kendrick. Kendrick talked about in his album Mr. Morale and the High Steppers. His whole project was about shadow work. Everything was shadow work. So I just thought it was very interesting that Drake used the things that Kendrick already stated. And I think that the argument is not about East Coast versus the West Coast. It's about style and content now. Even though I like Drake to dance to, but if I really want to hear some real artistry, I'm going to listen to Kendrick. I think they're two different artists. I don't even think they need to be fighting because they're two different artists to me. So it's the masculine, who's the top dog, amongst other things. I'm not into hip hop like that. I tried to get Simbi to talk to me about it, but Simbi's like, I really don't care like that.
Yeah,
We
I
don't
really
care
have
like that.
a love-hate relationship with the culture. So I really, like you said, I have a love-hate. Of course, I grew up with it in the beginning, and it was always, my mom used to say, how can you listen to that? It's be this and be that, and be like, oh, they not talking about me. They not talking about me. I'm not that. It's the music, it's the beats. But I didn't understand how I function as a human being and how that shit was shaping my mind too, and the conditions and the relationships that I was dealing with. So it's a sore spot for me, where it's media is very powerful, and we have to be more cautious and knowledgeable of how it's being used. We can look at how society uses media against us, but when it comes to us looking at the culture and how it is affecting us and not in the best ways, we don't want to talk about that. At least I feel like we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Hey, girl, you came in just in time. We got 15 minutes with 13. I appreciate you. What you got to say, Mama?
So I'm like, I when I heard, first of all, let's not forget that first it was Chris Brown and
Quavo. Yes, I was like, now I see.
right, it was Chris Brown,
Oh,
Quavo,
because I didn't know
Rick
that
Ross.
Chris Brown could rap. I said, wait, what the?
Right. And so this was kind of like another one on the back end of that, which I thought was interesting. But it kind of reminded me of back in the day, like Kool Mo D and LL Cool J. That beef, that was bad. Like, I don't know if y'all know.
I
Y'all
remember
Okay.
that vaguely.
Oh my God. No, I'm
No.
saying like it was epic. It was serious though. I mean, I think we could look back. We could look back on history and see this again and again. I just think this is the modern day one.
That's true.
And I
Mix and
feel
repeat.
like, yeah, it's just history repeating itself. Let's just hope that it doesn't go to the left like the Biggie Tupac beef went,
I don't
where
think it is.
people lost their lives for over nothing, over words. I just think that this kind of stuff could be worked out in a therapist's office or something. I don't. I
Hello.
mean, I feel like I also, from the entertainment industry side, think this could be, publicity. It could be,
Mm-hmm. It could be so many
it could
things,
be a
right?
precursor to them working together. It could be a lot of like, like
Mm-hmm.
we don't know. And I also think it's to show how much. So I don't know. I've been thinking about this lately because when y'all was talking about how your week was, it's like I've been checking myself as far as what I engage in online because I'm trying not to get sucked into this nonsense because it's like I feel like we're all like an experiment on
Mm-hmm.
social media. Like, okay, let's see what they're gonna go after this time. Let's dangle this carrot. Let's dangle this cheese. And it's like it's like okay, well, we have to decide as the society what we're not going to follow,
Mm-hmm.
what we're not going to support. And so I just feel like this is something that I kind of looked at from a distance. I listened to one of the diss tracks. I listened to Drake's because I'm a Drake fan. I'm not a Kendrick Lamar fan. I cannot
They
say I
like us. They
ever
not like us. They not like us.
listened
That's,
to Kendrick Lamar. I
that,
can't say
that,
that I ever listened to any of his music. So yeah, I'm just not on it like that. So I guess I'm biased in that
and maybe I'm
I
biased.
I listen to Drake. So but I don't listen to all Drake.
I like them both,
Like
actually. I
I'm not,
just think they're two different artists. They're two different
yeah.
styles. So I don't even know how they cross hairs like this.
I
I mean,
don't know
I've been
either in this
watching.
big old world with all these people. It's like pointless now. Like it's pointless. But I think for argument's sake, like Kendra said, it's two different like styles of rap anyway. They're kind of night and day. So it just didn't make sense. This could be a personal beef that they took on to, the music side so they wouldn't fight. Who knows? I just think that as we have to start being more selective in what we decide to go support. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been really holding my tongue back, like online with my
Yeah,
comments.
no, I've been thinking all different type of angles because, um, so from what I researched, uh, Drizzy, BBL
Mhm.
Drizzy, BBL, they got it's terrible. But anyway, Drizzy has invested or supported the rap battle leagues, right? So I'm
Mhm.
like, what would be the ultimate Las Vegas card? What would be the ultimate Las Vegas card? Kendrick versus Drizzy.
In
Who?
the world of rap battles you talking
Yes,
about?
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. Right now, they could make so much money. So I did go to. I was like, I wonder if this is a ploy. But then I said, no. They didn't went too. They didn't went too dark. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. They didn't went a little too deep for this to be a publicity stunt at
Yeah.
this point. But wouldn't that have been a great thing to be able to do? But I think that as we're seeing, it's like they're fighting for the culture. It's like we want music that's going to educate and to elevate. That's what I think. It's like the party music versus the more conscious, rebellious music. But why can't we have both?
We have it
But what's
all. I include
conscious?
it
I'm
all.
confused.
Well,
So
yeah,
we think
conscious rap.
Kendrick is conscious?
Yeah, quote unquote, quote unquote,
I don't know about that. I
quote
don't know.
unquote. What I'm saying is, when I say that, a lot of his work that I have heard
Hmm.
deals with being black in America, mental health, especially
Hmm.
with black men, healing, generational curses, and healing from them. So it's like they had two different, to me, styles. So and I think that aside from his alleged lifestyle, they're like, why are you living this lifestyle and you're putting out this type of music that is not? Look, LaShawn, your face, what? Something stank?
I'm sorry.
I think he's being called out as a fraud. I think that
Yes,
was Drake's thing.
Drake is being called out as a fraud. Oh,
no, Kendrick. Yeah, he's calling him out.
I mean, well, both. I think both of them. We could say who isn't, but so
yeah.
You know, but that's basically it, y'all. I appreciate y'all coming. I have been playing hooky because I'm going to be doing this stage production, and the rehearsals have been wonderful, but they've been taking up my brain. So I appreciate you guys joining me tonight, but I think I'm going to officially move them to Wednesdays because I had practice today and other things that ran late, and I don't want to get on here this late when I'm tired. But I love
you.
Y'all.
Look good.
But you look tired. You look good. I was tired. I fell asleep. I apologize. I was just like, oh my God, what happened? I feel really drained. I don't know. I'll put this in the group.
It's the energy too. We're kind of we're upgrading again. We're upgrading again, but we don't have time to talk about it today. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. But I love y'all and I appreciate y'all for joining me. All right, y'all. Okay. And thanks everyone for watching. Night night.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Peace.
Oh, and Dr. Natasha Pratt Harris from Morgan State University. Thank you so much for joining us. And you guys make sure that you hit that petition.
Yeah, so that's it right there.